Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining today's webinar discussing how Okta and SailPoint work together to provide seamless end-to-end identity access, governance, and security. I'm Ramey Champion, and I'm a part of our marketing team here at Okta. I'll be your moderator for our webinar today. We have two great speakers for you today, Ron Kiovison, our Senior Director of Business Management at Okta, and Colin Perry, Director of SaaS Solutions at SailPoint. Ron is responsible for enterprise governance, security, and networking partnership at Okta. In addition, he helps to lead the Okta Integration Network, which includes over 5,000 integration partners. Colin has 15 years of experience in identity and access management, including time in IAM consulting and implementation, audit, and he also has been at SailPoint for 10 years. So before we begin, there's a few things in the webinar console that I'd like to go over. At the bottom of the audience console, you can see that there's a few widgets for you to use. During the presentation, you can use the Q&A widget to submit any questions that you have for our speakers. At the end of the at the end of the presentation, that's when we'll have our Q&A session. We'll try to get to all the questions during that session. We do capture all questions, so if we run out of time, we'll follow up with you after the presentation. If you are also running into any technical difficulties throughout the presentation, you can use that same Q&A widget to let me know, and I'll help you through them. We also have our additional resources widget there at the bottom, and that lists a few additional resources on today's topics and others, and you'll be able to see that both during the live presentation and after. Finally, we're going to be sending an on-demand version of this webinar out within 48 hours following this presentation. And it's actually going to be accessible with the same link you used today, but we will send you that link. And you'll also be able to access the additional resources at that time again. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ron.
Great, thanks very much, Remy, and thanks for everyone for joining us, and thanks, Colin, for joining us as well. And I know Colin and I are both really looking forward to be talking to you today about how Okta and SailPoint come together to provide end-to-end identity management. Together, Okta and SailPoint offers secure, streamlined access and streamlined automated governance. To set the agenda, Colin and I will first do an intro to Okta and SailPoint, just a level set so everyone knows who we are and what we're up to as different organizations. But then we'll dive into the benefits of our integration, how it works, and then we'll also give you a quick demo. So the benefits, we're really excited about this partnership because it provides great benefit for you, the customer. As we'll demonstrate, this integration provides greater automation for all your identity processes. Requesting an app, automated for all your identity processes. So something is like will be requesting access for an app, approving access for an app, and even setting up SSO and multi-factor authentication. All this can now be easily automated with Okta and SailPoint working together. Which app? Any app. Cloud, on-prem, your hybrid infrastructures, they're all going to be covered through this partnership. And you can use any system of record for your users. So you can store your users in an HR system, AD, Okta's Universal Directory. They'll all work with this integration. Access and governance are seamless and automated, but perhaps even more important, they are secured. User login is secured behind single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. And as users come and go, we can increase security by automatically provisioning and deprovisioning them from resources. As users change roles or get access to new apps or data, we can also set up and enforce various step-up authentication policies. So that's an overview of the partnership. Colin, any thoughts on your side?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ron, and thanks everyone for joining. As Ron said, super exciting to speak to you all today, and we're really excited about the partnership as well as the integration that we're going to highlight today on this webinar. I think, Ron, you covered this great. I think the only thing I'd add is we're really excited about this. I think what drove this largely, too, is for years and years, we've, on both sides, on the Okta side and then certainly here on the SailPoint side, we've continually heard from all of you, customers and organizations in the market, asking us to integrate and to kind of solve this problem of building more cohesiveness between both everything that Okta does as well as everything we do here at SailPoint. So we're really excited to show you here what we have so far and talk a little bit more about the partnership.
Great. So we'll kick it off. I know a lot of you have come in through Okta, through SailPoint, so we'll just do a quick introduction to both organizations. First, we'll kick off just a quick introduction into Okta. We were founded in 2009, and we're a pioneer in the identity management in the cloud space. We have over 4,000 customers around the world. This includes SMBs and enterprise in virtually every industry and every geography. More than 3 million enterprise users log into their applications every day using Okta. And we're an identity company. Identity is an integration layer in the modern IT stack. We'll actually be talking a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. We have more than 5,000 integrations in our network. And finally, we're the ones who basically created the identity access management in the cloud space, and we're universally regarded as a leader by both Gartner and Forrester. Our vision and mission is to enable any organization to use any technology today and in the future. We do this by securely connecting an organization's people to the set of tools they want to use. These people may be employees, contractors, partners, or customers. And the technology they may want to access may include cloud apps, on-prem apps, and other IT infrastructure. The Okta Identity Cloud is a complete and integrated identity and access management stack. It was born and built in the cloud. You can't take some on-premise identity management software and put it in the cloud and get what Okta's built. You can't take Active Directory in the cloud and get Okta. So Okta wants you to use whatever technology is going to make you successful, and we connect you to everything. We have 5 core services in the Okta Identity Cloud. SSO offers single sign-on, offers seamless and secure access to your technology. Universal Directory offers a 360-degree view of your users. Lifecycle management automates user access policies. Adaptive multi-factor authentication gives you the ability to add a layer of context-driven security around anything your people want to connect to. And we also help you secure connections between software and APIs. And this is divided into 2 product lines. Okta's IT products, which help organizations modernize IT for the extended enterprise, and our API products, which expose that exact same functionality to offer an identity layer for customer-facing applications. And of course, not a week goes by without us hearing about some major breach impacting millions of people and costing millions of dollars. So while every customer buys Okta to enable a better experience, they also buy Okta to protect those experiences from being breached. That's a little bit about Okta. Let me turn it over to Colin to talk about SailPoint.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, the story of SailPoint, we started around the same time as Okta. So about 12 years ago, the founders of SailPoint had a recognition in the market that there was a need to move really from kind of all the traditional identity administration tools into kind of the next generation of visibility and control. And really, this was kind of, I think, a recognition that while a lot of the vendors in the market kind of predating SailPoint had kind of been able to automate access and do some basic lifecycle management for directories and other types of things, there was realization that a new space needed to be created, a space that became known as identity governance and administration. And this space was really all about understanding who has access to what across critical applications in the enterprise, and then bringing that visibility to the people that need that visibility, people like managers of people and app owners and others. And then with that visibility, and then empowering them with control to be able to revoke access where people don't need it, as well as be able to fulfill and request access, and overall provide governance across all the different systems and different populations of identities across the enterprise. Since 10, 12 years ago, we've grown to be a very large organization, now publicly traded as of last year as well, and we're almost 1,000 customers. With the product lines that we've created, we've managed to have near perfect customer retention, and we've really, just like Okta, stratified across a number of different industries, across healthcare, banking, financial services, and organizations globally. Additionally, we've had industry recognition from all the major analysts, including Gartner, Forrester, KuppingerCole, all of which take a different look at IGA and really dissect it and look at products in different ways. And in every case, they've found SailPoint as the overall market leader. Much as I described in the beginning here, really our mission is understanding who currently has access, and this crosses both on-prem and cloud applications, as well as everything from databases, directories, platforms, mainframes, ERPs, you name it. We want to understand all the different identities, all the different people across the enterprise, as well as all their access to those systems. With that information, we can then provide that visibility in a business-friendly way to people that need that information, like managers and app owners and others, and really help them understand, should these people have that access? Is this appropriate that Jane still has access after being here for 10 years, and maybe she's accumulated a lot of access beyond what she needs, and really empowering Jane's manager to be able to review that access and determine whether it's appropriate. And then also bring in context about how that access is being used. So a little bit on our technology, we really focus across a number of areas. The first one really focuses on compliance controls and kind of understanding access, empowering those people as I just spoke about, and really this kind of end-to-end governance, which spans a number of user access controls. We go into lifecycle management, which is really all about the joiner, mover, leaver, and automating that entire process across on-prem and cloud, and then fulfillment down into a number of different layers. Password management. We also span identity governance for files as well. So we're not just looking at applications and systems, but we also extend to files and specific permissions on files and who has access to that. And then also analytics. So bringing in visibility and being able to mine all your data and define context and really understand critical information across those. Underpinning all this is a very, very vast API framework, as well as connectivity across on-prem and cloud systems, as well as specific integration and connectors for both on-prem and cloud file systems as well. I'll pass it over to Ron to talk a little bit about the integration between us.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Colin. So with that overview of Okta and SailPoint, it becomes a lot more clear as to why this partnership makes so much sense. Okta is a leader in identity access management, and SailPoint provides the leading solution in identity governance and administration. Okta connects you to all the resources you need, and SailPoint ensures that that connection is compliant. And by protecting and automating identity management, we make your entire organization more secure. We offer protection against stolen credentials, unauthorized access, and rogue accounts. But hey, don't let us just say that we're the leaders in our respective markets. Take a look at what the industry is saying. Okta and SailPoint are both leaders in their respective Gartner Magic Quadrants. Okta is a 4-time leader in access management and identity as a service, and SailPoint is a leader in Gartner's Identity Access and Governance Magic Quadrant. It's also really interesting to note that Gartner has broken up access management and identity governance into 2 distinct disciplines. They recognize that what we each do is different. So Okta and SailPoint agree with this, and by working together, we're able to provide real end-to-end identity management. So now that we've properly introduced you to the two of us, let's introduce you to the problem, which is how to effectively and securely manage end-user identity. Protecting an end-user's identity is becoming increasingly complex as you need to manage employees, contractors, partners, customers. Just the whole notion of an end-user identity is constantly shifting. And they all have unique access, security, and governance requirements. They all need to access their own different set of apps and data. And what you need to do, obviously, is control access to all those apps and then make sure that that access is compliant, whether with regulation or corporate governance policies. So when SailPoint and Okta integrate, when they come together, you provide organizations with automated access and governance controls. It lets employees access any application, any data, including cloud, hybrid, or on-prem. It provides organizations with automated access and governance controls and reduces overall IT costs by automating identity processes that may consume the time of IT admins. We help you lock the front door. We help you lock the side doors. We help you lock the windows. You know what? We'll even stop Santa Claus from coming down the chimney. We lock down the entire process. That's the power of putting single sign-on and multi-factor authentication to secure access at the front. And then finally, we enable comprehensive controls and visibility as to who has access to what. Okta and SailPoint partner not only just to secure access to the apps, but to secure the provisioning as well, to grant them and maintain secure access and application provisioning. We also maintain an audit trail of every identity to demonstrate compliance and ensure adherence with corporate policies and regulations.
Great. And
so Colin, why don't I turn it over to you so you can walk us through a bit more about what this integration looks like.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate that. Let's definitely dive a layer deeper here and look at a little bit of how this architecture comes together and how the two solutions operate together. So on the left-hand side, getting a little bit deeper into the technology, we see that SailPoint handles all the core governance functionality here. So things like access requests, access certification, separation of duties. We do fine-grained provisioning and help instrument a lot of kind of a governance-based approach to lifecycle, as well as password management. On the Okta side, much as Ron just covered, authentication, single sign-on. We go through multi-factor authentication, also lifecycle management to SaaS applications and others, as well as password reset. And so while there's a couple overlaps here between the left and the right, where we can actually work in concert with one another and actually help kind of create a much more kind of comprehensive set of capabilities, really we have two kind of separate sets of functionality that are coming together here to provide that full picture of end-to-end identity access and governance. Now, what's facilitating this interoperation between the two solutions is the SailPoint Okta connector. And this is actually a connector that was written by SailPoint. It's leveraging Okta's front door APIs and is able to interact with the account and group model, as well as a lot of the other functions on the Okta side to provide full read, write, and essentially data exchange between our two technologies. And this is really at the heart of what's kind of instrumenting and providing the glue between the two technologies. Now, this integration is actually quite extensive. We have lots of capabilities that this connector does today. We'll talk about some of this as we go through this presentation. Of course, we're really kind of trying to give you guys an intro today. So for more information, you definitely reach out to us. We're happy to set up a more deep session to kind of talk about your specific use cases and what you're trying to achieve. But at the core, with this connector, we can both bring in information from Okta. So as Okta connects to different systems and applications, we can govern that information. We have visibility in it within SailPoint. But we can also pass information back to Okta. So as we gather information and we connect to other systems, we can then share that information back, sync it over to Okta, and provide this very seamless interaction between the two technologies. So with that, let's step into some of the core use cases that we see for both organizations that are using this connector today in practice, as well as just some of the kind of design goals for this integration. The first one is all about making sure that users are ready on day one. And this is really at the heart of identity. When we think about kind of how people join the enterprise and all the different ways that people come in, whether they're a contractor, whether they're an employee, whether we're dealing with a directory or an HR system, everything starts with some sort of system of record, and it comes into the combination of SailPoint and Okta. And with our instrumentation, with our joint lifecycle management, we can set up all the access that people need for a very great day one experience. Now, importantly, combining the governance with all the capabilities of Okta, we're able to make sure that people have the right access to the systems that they need on that day one, and really both provision all the access to not only cloud applications, but also all the on-prem applications that they have as well. probably of most importance here is then presenting that information to them in the Okta dashboard, showing that user what they have access to, and then protecting it with strong adaptive multi-factor authentication, which again, we'll talk a little bit more about here in the demonstration in a minute. The second use case is, it's great we set up all that access, but that user may need some additional access as part of their job. So again, on the Okta dashboard, they'll be able to request access, link right into the SailPoint Access Request catalog, request that access, go through approval workflow as needed, and then get all that additional access they need to do their job. And we're really at the heart of this, from a governance point of view, making sure that the right person is approving it, and then the right person has visibility. And that visibility brings us to the access review process or access certification. And so on a periodic basis, most organizations typically do this quarterly. Some organizations actually stratify between high risk and low risk, and for low risk, maybe do an annual type of review, but really presenting information that's needed to different managers, app owners, and others, and showing them, hey, this is what your people have access to. Is this appropriate or not? And allow them to make that decision. And then, of course, automatically having that represented within the Okta dashboard when they lose access to things that are no longer necessary. So that's a quick high level, but I'd like to jump into a bit of a demo, show you guys a bit of the products side by side here, just to give you guys a picture here to look at. I'll share my screen. And hopefully everyone's seeing the screen now up on the up in the presentation here. Okay, great. Sorry, just wanted to do a quick check there, make sure everyone had visibility. So great. So at the heart of this, even before what I'm showing you here, I didn't want to overcomplicate this demonstration for the webinar today, but at the heart of this, we talk about that system of record. And speaking across the 10+ years that I've been here at SailPoint and all of my experience in identity, I think the reality is, and I'm sure most of you can relate out in the audience, is that everyone's got some sort of different system of record. And a lot of people run these days Workday, maybe UltiPro, maybe SAP HR, PeopleSoft, Oracle HR, maybe a combination, maybe you guys have acquired a lot of companies and you actually have 5 or 6 different HR systems, maybe system of record is a directory even. And all that different information comes, it's somewhat irrelevant what your system of record is, but the point is that there is some sort of system of record that's feeding both Okta and SailPoint and really helping us understand who all the different identity populations are and who are the relevant people there in the organization today. When we look at a day in the life of a new user, in this case, I'm going to use Catherine as my actor. She just got hired, and we just went through an onboarding process in the system of record, and that information flowed into both the combination of us, SailPoint, as well as Okta, and we got that information, and then through a governance-based lifecycle process, which is really working our lifecycle capabilities of SailPoint and Okta working in concert with one another, but governed by SailPoint with SailPoint roles and SailPoint lifecycle events, we're able to set up the Okta dashboard with all the different access that is needed. And some of this access may have been fulfilled via SailPoint connectors, some of it may have been fulfilled by Okta connectors, but all this stuff is instrumented together and in concert with one another. So both the solutions are working together to make this happen. But really important, Catherine was able to set her initial password. She was able to log in on her first day on the job and come to the Okta dashboard and really solve a major problem that we see over and over at organizations, which is helping users on a first day experience understand what they have access to. It's great, we've provisioned all this access, but now we have to show the user what they actually have access to. And that's really what's happening here on the Okta dashboard is Catherine's able to see on that first day experience what she has access to. In this case, she's got some Oracle access and ADP and DocuSign, and we haven't even finished the provisioning process in her case here. Also, what you're seeing here is that she actually clicks on one of these tiles and tries to get into the system because she literally has just single-click access into all these different applications. We can protect that via Okta adaptive multi-factor authentication. And so with adaptive multi-factor, it's taking into account things like her network, her geography, other types of conditional type things, and bringing intelligence into that multi-factor challenge to make sure that only if she's supposed to have access, or really validating the authenticity of her identity, verifying that Catherine is who she says she is, and that being able to satisfy those challenges. And lastly, on the dashboard here, you're seeing some reference to SailPoint here and different functions she has within the SailPoint product. And so another key thing we're able to provision on the Okta dashboard is actually access into different capabilities within SailPoint, so that she can see, that she actually has the ability to access her certifications, be able to review her people's access. She can request some additional access. She could go into some advanced password management, kind of working in concert with Okta Password Reset to be able to provide some advanced password management capabilities for systems that are managed by SailPoint, as well as access an Identity Now dashboard. In addition, we could have added an administrative tile here. If she was a SailPoint admin, she could have actually gone in and even gotten access directly, deep linked into SailPoint, the administrative screen and analytics screen as well. From here, let's talk about kind of one of the first use cases. As Catherine started at her job, one of the things that's going to happen as kind of a cornerstone, and we just referred to it in the slide, is she may need to request some additional access. And so she can click on this request access. And while we provisioned a whole bunch of birthright access for her and set her up based on her job function and her role in the organization, you may determine here on that first day that she needs a little bit of additional access. And that's very much what we preach from kind of a methodology point of view, is you should never try to design a role-based access model for 100% accuracy. I mean, the reality is that's kind of an endless quest. You'll spend your whole life trying to define roles for every possible corner case. But you can get to 80% pretty easily. And that additional 20%, users can simply go to the request catalog here and request some additional access. Maybe she needs some access to Concur, to CyberArk here, to some other cloud or on-prem applications. It could be anything that you want to model in the catalog here. And there's a lot of flexibility on the SailPoint side with how we enable the logical representation of different sets of access. Under the covers, really what's happening here, if she requests some sort of additional access, we can actually have a tiered model here where some additional access can refer to different fine-grained entitlements and really different sets of access on the back end. But we're presenting it all in very business-friendly language, so that potentially if someone just needs some access, maybe needs a Slack account or a Salesforce account or some sort of Oracle access or SAP access, they can go in and you can represent whatever level of access you need to represent. And then that can either be fulfilled via SailPoint, via our connectors. It could be fulfilled via Okta's connectivity to some of these applications, or it could be fulfilled through some other means, like opening a ticket in a ticketing system to go and be fulfilled manually. Regardless of how it gets fulfilled, we're going to govern that whole process, track who approved it, when they approved it, how that access was fulfilled, and that the access was in fact fulfilled correctly, so that we can then show any kind of auditor or any of you from a visibility point of view that, hey, these are exactly the people that are out there today and what access they have to different systems. So flipping back to the Okta dashboard here, after Catherine gets some additional access, that's going to automatically, and after it's been approved effectively and no one rejected it, her dashboard will reflect all that additional access that she got, and that happens dynamically. So she'll immediately see that tile show up on the Okta dashboard, and she can then click in, satisfy any multi-factor challenge she needs, and get access into the application directly. The second use case is really all about access review. So again, as she goes through her job, one of the interesting things about Catherine in this example is she's a manager, and she manages people across accounting and internal audit. And she's a non-technical user, but she does have a variety of different people that work for her in the organization. And one of the cornerstones of identity governance is empowering people, even people like managers in non-technical positions, to be able to be accountable for their people's access and what their people are doing with that access. And that is something that is just a tremendous gap in the industry today from a security point of view, is most managers have zero visibility into what their people have access to. And especially if you've inherited someone from, maybe someone worked in IT for years and years, but they found their calling and they've always wanted to be an accountant, and they move into accounting, they get access to a bunch of accounting systems. They may still have and retain their old access from their last position. And so when we go into access certification, Catherine would have received an email actually and told her that she has a review to complete, maybe this is a quarterly review process, as I alluded to earlier. But she clicks that link in the email, and she'll end up, or she could access it right here from her Okta dashboard, and she's going to end up right into her access review. And when she comes into her access review, we can flip right into someone here like Doug, and we can look at Doug's access across different systems. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and just show you guys kind of a little bit more basic example initially, and we can certainly elaborate on this if there's some additional questions on it. But this access review is really designed to present all kinds of different access. It really could be anything, like any kind of system, on-prem, cloud, or otherwise, that you have an account and some level of access in. We can present that to a manager, an app owner, or some other person in the enterprise and really show them, hey, this is Doug's access. He's got access to Active Directory, Azure AD, Google. He's got all these different entitlements. We're also providing business-friendly descriptions here of what that access means. If he does happen to have more than one account, we can show that. We can show, privileged accounts that are managed by a PAM solution like a CyberArk or other. We can present that in here and show that he's got access to those accounts. And really what's happening here from a kind of cornerstone or kind of a core discipline point of view is we're empowering that person, in this case, the manager, Catherine, to not only have visibility to Doug's access, but then take action on that access, revoke the access that needs to be revoked, and see access across all kinds of things. Even see, in this case, some Google Drive folder permissions, which is leveraging some of our ability to have identity governance for files in this equation as well. But you're seeing some legacy systems, IBM I here. We're also bringing in the Okta access. And so Okta groups are modeled right here as well. So where you have Okta actually assigning access to different applications and handling some of that stuff, we can actually handle and represent that right here in this interface as well. Again, show the manager, Catherine, in this case, that access, and empower Catherine to revoke some of that access if needed as well. Lastly, we're not just showing this stuff and kind of listing it out in just a uniform way. We're also bringing attention to things that matter more. So in this case, we're calling out some privileged access that Doug has here on Oracle eBusiness. There's a business-friendly description about what this actually is granting access to. And this, by flagging this as privilege, we're drawing some additional attention to it so that the reviewer actually pays a little bit extra attention, makes it a better designed internal control from a user access point of view, and then hopefully results in a lot better decision from this reviewer as well. Besides marking things as privileged, we can also mark things as new and flag things that are new access since the last time that someone did a review. So if you think about, most of these reviews happen on a quarterly basis, like I said, and people are going through that review process every quarter. What they really want to know is, hey, what's new? What's changed since the last review I did? And we, again, highlight that as part of this process. So last but not least, I do want to just kind of highlight beyond, we talked a little bit about the kind of life cycle, the onboarding, how this all gets instrumented and then represented here in the Okta dashboard. We requested some additional access. We looked at how reviews work. I'd also just lastly kind of end on a little bit on the administrative side, just to give you guys a little glimpse, because this kind of uniform story between SailPoint and Okta really is underpinned as well by our ability to leverage our joint visibility and this data exchange between our solutions. And so I've actually logged in here to our SaaS solution Identity Now, and I'm going to go over to a capability here that we have called Search. And this is actually a new capability that's just releasing right now. But this is a full elastic search engine here on the back end of Identity Now, and it allows us to search all kinds of different data. But one of the interesting things we can do here is, while I can do some advanced queries and all kinds of different stuff, I can just put in something like Okta, and I can see all the different people that have Okta access. I can see all their identities. I can see all their access across Okta. I can see all the different Okta access here, including Slack and Fidelity and different types of things that I have configured in my Okta demo environment. But the search capability also allows me to do some more advanced queries as well. And so as I come in here and perhaps start defining something, of course, we suggest all kinds of different searches and different data elements that you can reference. But I can do something kind of advanced here, like look for anything where directories in the name of the app, also privileged access equals true, and their entitlement count of the identity is less than 15. So looking for a very specific set of people. And of course, I can get this very specific result set back here and do all kinds of reporting and additional querying on this as well. So hopefully that gives you guys a quick glimpse into some of the capabilities we have with this integration today and how the joint solution works. From here, I'm going to pass it over to Ron for some closing comments, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Colin, and that was a great demonstration. Really appreciate that. And I hope that at a high level sort of makes clear about how Okta and SailPoint are beginning to work together and some of the new workflows, new processes that jointly we enable from both the access side as well as the governance side. As you see here, there's some details there about how to get more information. Obviously, we'll be sending out some information after this presentation, but you can certainly contact Okta or SailPoint for more information on this partnership. We also have a lot of great material online on both of our websites, some data sheets, some more explanations on the integration. We'll also be constantly posting new information as well. So make a note of those URLs, but then of course, we will be reaching out as well with additional information. And if you have any questions, do reach out to your respective Okta or SailPoint reps. So we have a number of questions too, so why don't we get to those as well? And why don't I pick up probably the first question? And there's been a number of questions here about the just how extensive is the integration between Okta and SailPoint. I think Colin alluded to this, but I'll repeat it. This is really phase one. So we announced the partnership just a few months ago, and we've been working on this integration. We're very excited about it, and that's what we wanted to come to talk to you guys about. So, what you see here is something that's in production. It's actually being used by customers. We would classify it as a phase one. We're always interested in new ideas and new use cases. I mean, obviously, the best way to build out further integrations is to understand from you, our customers, how you would like to see Okta and SailPoint work better together. But so I would say hopefully that we're looking for more to come, but we would classify this as a phase one and just the beginning of a long and successful partnership. Colin, any thoughts on your side?
No, I think that's right on. I think we've already built a lot of it. Kind of would describe as kind of the no-brainer use cases, a lot of the core stuff in here. We literally on a daily basis are whiteboarding other new ideas and kind of figuring out some ways we can take it to the next step. And so, that is something that we see just not only a tremendous amount of joint customers that we already have, but just a tremendous amount of interest from organizations that are interested in both of our technologies that have neither of them today. So this is this is driving a lot of that continued development and work on that side of things. So it's certainly something that we'll continue to look at over time.
One question, Colin, that I think is directed more to you is about SailPoint IIQ, Identity IQ, and which is an on-prem product. And the question is, does it integrate with Okta in the same way as IdentityNow?
Yeah, and the answer is that's exactly correct. So I think just for everyone's benefit here, we have essentially three product lines here at SailPoint. We have our Identity IQ product line, which is our kind of traditional, it's traditional software. It can be provided both on-prem as well as in the cloud. We have our IdentityNow, which is our microservice SaaS architected solution, which is much like Okta in the kind of way that we have a full high resiliency, 30 releases a week, pure SaaS solution. We also have a Security IQ solution, which is providing identity governance for files. And then we have our announced Identity AI analytics solution, which is also built on the microservice SaaS platform, and that's coming out later this year. So that's another capability we have. And this question about does the SailPoint Identity IQ product integrate with Okta in the same way? Yes, it does. In fact, both Identity IQ and IdentityNow have they both leverage the same exact connector architecture. So both technologies can integrate with Okta and provide all the same types of use cases in that way. It looks like another question on the list here.
Actually, related to connectors was another question.
Go ahead, Rob.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna, yeah, sorry, I was just gonna jump ahead because there was another related question about how can we know when to use the Okta or SailPoint connectors? And I really think that this is part of the strength of the partnership between Okta and SailPoint. And the short answer to that question is it depends. Because of the integration, you can actually leverage both sets of connectors. And depending on the customer requirements, depending on their architecture, depending on how many apps specifically need governance, depending on how many apps are in the cloud versus on-prem, these are a lot of variables. And happily, a lot of the features and the workflows that Colin highlighted can be achieved regardless of whatever the customer IT infrastructure looks like. And that's because you can actually leverage both sets of connectors. So when you're thinking about, which set of connectors to use, the Okta ones or the SailPoint ones, in this regard, it's a little bit case by case because it'll depend on customer requirements, what their infrastructure is. But happily, regardless of their infrastructure, you can use both sets to achieve whatever the customer is seeking to accomplish. Colin, did you want to jump into another question?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Ron. I think that the connector side, I think that, just to add one other comment, we've always had a very vast kind of connector fulfillment model here at SailPoint. So meaning we can use connectors for on-prem and cloud. We can create tickets. We can, fulfill via manual kind of a task or a report type of process. There's always been a number of different fulfillment models. And the key part from our perspective is really that model and the governance and kind of making sure that we're tracking everything and instrumenting everything correctly. And so much the same, sending stuff and leveraging Okta connectivity is a great, it makes perfect sense in combination with SailPoint in that manner. So that's great. I think the next question I'll throw out there is there's a question about kind of the Identity Now and SailPoint Okta dashboards, eventually being integrated. And kind of how, let me just pull up the rest of the question. Sorry, it was cut off here. And just kind of how they work together. And I think I'll maybe comment on this first and then pass it over to Ron. I think the first thing I'd say is you can already see from the demo that we're really kind of continuing to kind of get this harmonious flow between the two user experiences dialed in. And already I think it works pretty great. We've had great feedback from customers using it in this type of manner. But it's a great point. I think, as we continue to evolve this integration and partnership, there'll continue to be synergies on that side of things and things that we're looking at. The Identity Now and the Okta side, of course, both being microservice SaaS, this is just a great, match between the two technologies there working in concert with one another. So that, I think, is already great. And of course, the exchange of data is great. So it's certainly a great comment. It's something we're certainly continuing to look at. Ron?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Nothing more to add there. It's just something we'll continue to work on. Another interesting question was, how does Okta and SailPoint integrate with ServiceNow for capabilities such as access requests and access provisioning? And I think, so both companies have very strong integrations with ServiceNow. So both have very strong integrations with ServiceNow. And I think, I think that's another interesting use case that we would love to explore with you as to what are the best ways to incorporate ServiceNow into this sort of partnership between Okta and SailPoint.
Yeah, and I'll highlight some of the stuff on the SailPoint side there too. I think what we commonly find is kind of core integrations with ServiceNow because it's some very large percentage of our customer base that has ServiceNow in place. I'm sure that's the same on the Okta side, and so we've invested heavily there in our partnership with ServiceNow. Some of the core use cases, of course, we have a ServiceNow connector, so we can govern access in ServiceNow, create the account, assign access in ServiceNow, sync attributes over there. We find, another big common use case that people deploy all the time is essentially fulfillment through ServiceNow. So you may have some systems that, makes a lot of sense to use a connector for because they're high volume, high churn. And so we fulfill or do, lifecycle or certification revokes or access requests, and we're using our direct connector, and we're fulfilling that via our connector. But other systems may be kind of low volume. You may have 20 users on a system in an enterprise of 10,000, and that system, though, is absolutely critical. It's part of financial reporting, or it's got sensitive data, or you're governing some sort of design data or some other sensitive type of thing. So you definitely want to govern that access and those people, and so you pull it into the overall kind of framework, maybe through a connector. But for fulfillment, because there's only 20 users, you might just say, I'm just going to create a ServiceNow ticket when we need to request access to that or fulfill that access. And so we have a full ticket creation and fulfillment process through ServiceNow. The third common use case is a contractor management. And so this is kind of where you want to manage contingent workers in ServiceNow and then basically bring them into the SailPoint solution to kind of have visibility and instrument access based on all that type of thing. And then the fourth use case we see, I think you alluded to it here, is kind of the access request side and kind of how that works. And so the reality is we certainly recognize ServiceNow as kind of at the center of the whole request space. I think the words of ServiceNow CEO is they're the iTunes of the request industry, request space, for requesting everything from chairs and desks and all this kind of stuff. And the reality is ServiceNow does that really great, and then people have kind of standardized on that. But the problem is it doesn't have any kind of really good way for access. And so the in comes, our access request, the SailPoint access request capability. And today we find a lot of customers will actually do kind of a linking type model where they'll deep link into our access request capabilities directly from the ServiceNow user experience, so that users are already going to ServiceNow and then they see, to request access. Oh, I see, I click this link and go into that the request process in SailPoint. And so that's a great way to do that. Over time, we've also added a lot of APIs to be able to extend and kind of build some advanced integrations with ServiceNow. And then we're also continuing to work on some product enhancements that are going to provide even greater functionality around that. And so that's some stuff that's currently being worked on and will be released sometime here in the near future. Looks like another question here. Can you share any lessons learned of organizations that have integrated the two solutions? And kind of, I think the broader question, I'm going to combine a couple other questions here on this topic, about, what do you recommend as kind of next steps on this as well? I'll leave that off, pass it over to Ron. I think the general feedback and lessons learned from, talking to a lot of our partners that have done these deployments and our services teams that have done the deployments and stuff, the thing I would say is definitely, because anything new and kind of, this is, of course, this partnership's been going on now for several months, but the integration is relatively new. I guess it's been out for a few months now as well. You come back to our teams and ask for a consult. Let's sit down and talk through this. We're happy to do that and have that conversation. I think the reality of what we showed today in the demo is kind of just a high-level overview, but there's always a lot of detailed kind of corner case type of stuff, and we have learned quite a bit of things about how best to deploy this and how to have the solutions work in concert with one another. So certainly reach out to us, and we're happy to set up a more detailed conversation on that. That'd be my recommendation. Ron, anything from your side?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're quite right. I mean, a lot of the best practice we've had is when the customer has basically their process is really well defined and kind of understands what they want from each application, which is the application where they want deep governance, which is the application where a simple provisioning might do as well, and also to understand what are the access controls that they want to put in front of that. So I think having a very well thought out plan is probably the best way to begin to think about this integration. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that there is a lot of flexibility. So when we come to you and say, or when we're talking to customers and say, how do I secure my access and how do I secure my governance, there is quite a bit of flexibility, because we can put access controls in front of any application. We can put governance in front of governance behind any applications. So really, the best thing is to take a bit of time, review your own requirements, review your workflows, and then come to us, and we're happy to to have those discussions as to how to best implement. And that really has been the experience thus far with a number of the customers who have deployed this already. So, I mean, I think we're quickly coming up to the top of the hour. So I think maybe we'll just wrap up with a couple of. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ron. I was just going to say there was a couple questions that came in kind of late here, and I was just going to maybe fast fire through some of these quick because I think they're pretty easy ones too. They're pretty straightforward. I shouldn't say easy.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
But really, yeah. So one of them here is on pretty straightforward. But for on-prem apps, do the Okta and SailPoint connectors have to be individually set up? What ports need to be open on the firewall and stuff? So this is a bit of a detailed technical question, but the short answer here is we have tons and tons and tons of on-prem connectors from all the major databases. We have 18 different directory connectors, all the mainframes, ERPs, platforms, all that kind of stuff. And the short story is that no, there's no ports in the firewall that need to be open. We've built a piece of technology that enables us to securely and in a very high resiliency and in a high scale way communicate through the firewall. And we actually have a patented security model on that as well that facilitates that secure communication. And that facilitates that connectivity into one or many data centers. So often, we have customers that have, even in the case of acquisitions, they need to immediately extend capabilities and connectivity to an acquired company and to bring those identities in and be able to govern all that access. That's a very common use case. And again, this is that piece of architecture that what we call our virtual appliance facilitates that secure and high resiliency connectivity. And similarly to that question, there's another question about, can you support multiple authoritative data sources as the system of record? And the answer is yes, for sure. So this is another common one. I was speaking to a customer the other day that has 12 different HR systems and they kind of, I kind of thought it was very Baskin-Robbins-like because they cover all the vendors: SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft, Workday. They got a bunch of homegrown HR systems. They have a mainframe HR system as well. Yeah, we connect to all of them. We can segment all those different identity populations, treat them all differently, have different controls on all of them, different lifecycle processes on all of them, and then instrument all that different access from all those different things as well. And I think that covers at least a few more of them. Ron, anything else you wanted to address?
No, I mean, I think that's perfect. And yeah, for those questions that we haven't had a chance to reply to, we will be replying to later on after this webinar. So we'll make sure we do get to every single question. But I think that's been a great sort of overview of both Okta and SailPoint, what we do individually, and I think more importantly and more interestingly, what we do together. So let me throw it over to Remy just to help us wrap it up.
All right. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you so much, Colin, both of you guys, for joining us today, for giving us that great in-depth presentation, demo, and Q&A session. I just wanted to remind everyone that we will be sending out an on-demand version of this webinar within 48 hours, and we will also be sending out a few other resources for you. And we're also going to reach out if we did not get to your questions during this Q&A session. We will follow up after. Once again, on behalf of Okta and on behalf of SailPoint, thank you everyone so much for joining today's webinar, and hope you all have a great rest of your day.